Hello again, fight fans. I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and tonight I am speaking with a participant on the UFC's next international event in Auckland, New Zealand. On that night, my guest will be facing Australia's Joshua Culibao, or Culibao, it's a hard name to say, and that man is the tarantula, Jalin Turner. Jalin, thanks for the time we get as we get closer to your fight almost 7,000 miles away in New Zealand.
Ready to go, man. Ready to get it going.
Now,
Ready for that flight, that 12-hour flight, everything.
I was planning to ask you about that. Now, it's 12 hours. Okay, I want to know about that. Also, it seems like theoretically, if you're going to do a flight all the way to that side of the world, in the U.S., in the continental U.S., California would make the most sense because you're going that way. But how does it work when you're going in that direction, 12 hours? Do you, lose a day? Do you, what time is it when you get over there? And what's the date when you get over there? 'Cause I know you did it once before to Australia.
So technically, you do lose a day. So I'm leaving on Sunday, and then I'll be there Tuesday. So that's kind of trippy.
Really? Oh, so you leave Sunday night late, and then it passes Monday, and then what do you get there? You're technically there Sunday early morning. I mean Tuesday early morning.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
Holy Lord! So I mean, on a normal time, would you always leave Sunday for any event wherever in the world? You always leave on a Sunday, get there to the fight week on a Monday, or are you leaving a day early than your usual because you're losing the whole day?
I'm leaving early because I'm losing that day, and just to acclimate to the time change. It's a pretty decent time change. But when I went out there last year, it was a easy adjustment.
I talked to Derek Krantz, who was doing a fight in Russia a few months back. He talked about how he had to do weight cutting on the flight over. Is the same situation for you? Do you have to do some weight cutting on the plane or no?
Oh man, I'm trying to cut my weight now, so I don't have to do anything on the plane. I don't want to run up and down the plane. Nothing. I just want to just lay there and sleep.
Now, before we talk more about this fight coming up, and I wanted to go back to your fight in April with Matt Frevola. I was watching it again yesterday, and was really a competitive fight. You had the 6-inch height and reach advantage on him. You used it very well. For the most part, you were clearly the better striker. And early in the fight, you stuffed takedowns. When he got you down, you got right back up. But it seemed like the key decider that had the judges give him every round in that fight was that extra gear, that grind that Frevola is kind of pretty much known for. Looking back, did you feel that fight was much closer than the judges gave you credit for? And what was your opinion and what that was the decider between you two that got him the W?
I recently just watched that fight too. To be honest, I just think it was just that top control. It just depends on how you would score the fight. I feel like standing up, it was like night and day. He didn't want to engage with me.
Yeah.
But his grappling was on point. He was a better grappler that night. I went to that fight with a knee injury, so that kind of played a little bit of a factor. And I think I trained too conservatively before that fight, and I didn't get my gear going, so I could have just grinded it out right there with him. But it is what it is. I look back at that fight. I hated that performance right after I fought that fight, but now I watch it. I'm like, I didn't do too bad. It's not how I wanted to perform, but it was still decent. I still think it could have been a little bit closer, but that's dust under the rug at this point. I'm just here to move forward. But yeah, hats off to him. If he would have fought me the way he fought Luis Pena, I think it would have been I would have got a finish. He came out way more aggressive with that fight. And I like the counter strike, so I was just waiting a little bit too much for him to do something and being too reactive, and it's something I've been working on.
During the broadcast, Daniel Cormier in the third round brought up, he felt you should have been doing more kicks, and something you actually did kicks early in the fight. Was the knee injury, did it hamper you from using more kicks and it forced you to have to box more?
Yeah, it did. I trained around that the last week or so. Just because I couldn't turn, I couldn't do anything without feeling like my knee was gonna give way.
Okay.
Yeah, so it messed up my game a bit, but I still had the confidence to go in there and fight. I had some pressure. I felt like I needed to fight that fight, and I didn't feel like pulling out was the right move. But in hindsight, it was probably the move I should have did. But you live and learn.
You haven't fought since April. You have always been a very active guy, often fighting 3, maybe 4 times a year since you've been in the sport. You've been away for nearly 10 months now. What kept you away for so long? Was it rehabbing, getting that knee fixed? Was that the reason why you've been out for so long, or was it just booking issues with the UFC and you haven't been able to get somebody in there?
It was a little bit of both. It took me about 8 weeks of rehab for
Wow.
my knee. But I was like, I got to like the 6 week mark, and I started training a little bit, and then I started like just progressively pushing, and I was ready to fight by like I just kept asking for fights, man. I kept asking for fights. I was like, November I want to fight, September I want to fight, December I want to fight, and then nothing came up, so I was just like, you know what, I just just kept training. I kept training like I was going to get a fight, and I kept progressing and getting better. And I didn't worry about it. I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? They're not gonna give me anything right now, but when they do give me something, the time will be right, and I'll be ready for it. And it's just the whole process was just me just focusing on myself and getting better. And I feel like that just brought out all my hunger and just rekindled my flame with the level of sport, not having that outlet like to be able to fight.
I
It lit the fire for sure.
I talked to Scott Holtzman, who's on the card this weekend, and he talked about he had similar issues with getting fights because it seemed like no one wanted to fight until December, and then at that point in December, he didn't want to fight. He's gonna have been on for a long time too. Was it something like that for you too? Like you wanted to fight, you kept telling your management, kept trying to get you a fight, and then just no one wants to fight.
Um, Yeah, it was pretty much like that. Yeah, we had tried to sign a fight, and it fell through. The guy, he couldn't take it. No one's gonna be named, but he couldn't take it. But I think he was recovering from something too. So
Nah.
I'm not worried about that. I wanted to fight. I was ready to go. I've been ready to go. Like I've been telling everybody, like I got 10 months of pent up aggression and training in me that I get to display.
I noticed on your Instagram a couple of posts on like the prepared meal products that you use, as well as being at 175, almost 2 months 2 months away from this fight. It was like 7 weeks ago the post was, which is great. That's that far off from the fight. Without a doubt, people will always question if this is the best weight for you because of how large you are for the weight class. No one wants to see fighter drain themselves or having a hard cut. How much does getting those meal preps? Because I've heard from other fighters the meal preps things are awesome for them and keeping the nutrition and maintaining things. How big is it for you in terms of having energy and training and keeping on point with your weight and all those kind of stuff? Does it take a lot of the stress or certain parts of stress out of a camp now than say a year or two ago doing stuff like that?
Yeah, it plays a big factor, man. And like I don't have to worry about preparing meals. I don't have to worry about like my calorie intake. Everything's already set for me. Everything's set in stone. But I've been working with meal companies since I went
Okay.
professional anyway. And even then, like I don't get too big and like in between like camps and fights. I think the biggest I hit was 190, but that was just me pigging out for like 2 weeks, eating whatever I wanted, not training how I should have. But I'm usually on point. I'm usually like the heaviest I'll get outside of camp if I'm training is like 180. I usually stay around like
Wow.
175,
Okay.
180, somewhere around there.
So
Yeah.
you aren't a guy that's because I talked to a fighter a similar kind of size to you. He was welterweight. He went up to middleweight, and he was just getting bigger. You haven't met that. You're still pretty young. You haven't felt that issue where it's hard to make cuts. Your body, you're growing into that into a prime shape. It's still easy cut for you as long as you keep your meal prep programs.
Yeah, it's still easy cuss. Honestly, I fought at 145 a few
Wow.
times as an amateur. Like I feel like over the years my body has gotten some more muscle, but it's still not deteriorating my weight cuts. Maybe everybody tells me one day I'm gonna go to 170, but I don't feel like I am. I feel like as long as I stay under like 185 comfortably and naturally, I'm gonna stay at
How
155.
did the meal prep those things work? Is it in consultation with like your strength and nutrition coach and strength and conditioning coach, or is it just you have like a set calorie intake you have to have per day over a week, and you just give them the calculations and they just boom boom set it up in different meals? How does that work? Because my meal prep program is just going to the supermarket and picking things I like.
It depends on where I am in camp or if I am in camp or not. I've been working with Trifecta for this camp and this weight cut, so I've been feeling great, like just cutting weight, like staying lean, and it's just been perfect for me right now. But yeah, sometimes it just depends on like where you want to stay, like what's your goal, like if you're trying to gain some muscle, gain some weight, or just want to stay lean or stay comfortable, just eating right. And that's it. It's mainly about eating healthy. That's it. Just keeping that good fuel.
Now for your fight with Joshua coming up next week, he's making his promotional debut with just 8 fights on his resume as a guy who has fought just on the Australian MMA scene. A lot of fans may not really know much about him. Was there any research on your part when the fight was offered to you? As a replacement, only a few weeks ago. Did you have to research and kind of look him up and then take the fight, or it was like, I'm just happy to get a replacement. I want to be on the card. I've been out for 10 months. I'll fight anybody. I'll fight the devil. Whatever.
I was like, I'll fight anybody. I didn't care who they put in front of me. I just wanted to get in there and get my hand raised. That's all I've been thinking about is just fighting. I did look him up like right after, like I already said yes. So I was like, I'm gonna just look him up. I asked around about him. I know a couple of people out there, so it was easy to get a little bit of information. He's an all-around fighter. He'll bring the fight. He's tough. Coming up from 45, so I think that's gonna play in my favor. It's gonna be a fun night.
You've been in his position, making that jump up into the UFC level, being in that UFC debut. So where he's coming from. What was your UFC debut like, and what can you take from it that maybe can help you in this? Were you nervous? Did you get the UFC jitters, as they say? Do you feel like you need to pressure him early because he may be hesitant, he may be a little nervous? This is going from the Australian MMA scene to this kind of stage. It's a big jump.
I don't know how to equate it to what he's going to go through because, everybody takes the pressure different. When I debuted for the UFC, I felt like I was about to go spar. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel any nerves. I didn't feel any jitters. I felt comfortable. And actually, I feel like I got too comfortable because when I started like getting loose and I spin an elbow, I was just getting loose. I was just getting my gears going. So, no specific like game plan. I'm not gonna like take away something from just having the UFC jitters or it being a debut. I feel like everybody's gonna come to fight no matter what. But those bright lights, man, it does change a fighter's mindset sometimes. I don't know, it just takes away sometimes. Either it takes away or it boosts. So we'll see how he deals with under the pressure.
Now, speaking of the bright lights, pressure moments, the main event is a fight that's in your division between Dan Hooker and Paul Felder. What are your thoughts on that fight? How do you see that fight playing out?
I feel like, man, I don't know. It could go either way. I trained with Paul Felder like a few years back in Jackson. That dude he's tough as nails. But Hooker is slick, man. Hooker is really slick. But I do actually, since it's a 5-round fight, I do kind of see Paul taking the cake for that one since it's 5-round.
Now, I always like to end the interview just learning a little bit more about the fighter, so the people that watch this can learn something maybe they didn't know. So I always like to ask, what are your personal interests away from fighting? I mean, because I know fighting, it consumes your life, it consumes your days for months. The drain, not just physically, drain mentally. You just got to get the hell away from it. Sometimes you got to do stuff non-fighting. I've heard different. I heard skydiving. I've heard people like cooking. Comic books, video games. I've heard video games a ton. Video games all the time. What are your personal interests? Are you a Netflix binger? Do you like to read? What do you do that just has nothing to do with fighting that you'd like to do for fun?
I like video games. I recently got like really big into dog training. Like that's like my favorite hobby.
Are
right
you
now.
watching the Westminster dog show? I mean, are you that deep into the dog training?
I'm not that deep. I haven't watched it, but I know the people that are running it.
Okay.
So I just don't partake in it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I like cars. I'm into cars. Not like a gearhead or anything, but I can respect a nice car. But just stuff like that, or just honestly, like fighting is my life, and it's like just a big part of my life. And like I just don't know really what to do like when I'm not training. I have to train at least like a couple times a week. So those and tarantulas, man. Tarantulas, animals, reptiles. That's my stuff. I feel like
by dog training, do you are you hoping to train dogs to be like service dogs and people dog like the serious stuff, maybe helping the blind, those kind of dogs, like that kind of level of training, or more simpler stuff?
Nah, I like the protection work stuff, like getting the bite suit. Yeah, that's like my favorite thing. That's my forte right now, and a little bit of obedience, like basic obedience stuff, but. Yeah, I like taking bites from dogs. That's the only thing right now.
And what video game are you playing right now? I downloaded like Apex.
Apex.
Ah, okay.
That's all I play. I got Call of Duty. I don't care for Call of Duty
Yeah.
right now, but I'm still hooked on
Are
Apex,
you a
man.
big open world game kind of? I'm not. I'm so in the big open world. I like a good campaign. Are you an open world kind of guy?
No, I just stick to one game that I like and that's it. Man, like I'll play with the same game for a year straight,
Wow.
like
All
comfortably.
right.